I will begin as I always do with a very joyant and jubilant hello to all my good friends out there in the trader universe, or anyone in the trader universe for that matter. How about just anybody in the universe that came by? I just now realized I've been using this joyant and jubilant tagline with every opening recently. And I've never even checked to see if joyant was actually a word, because it doesn't sound like one. I don't know where it came from. Hey, look, if it's not, don't worry about it, because we're going to keep using it. In fact, get it on the Twitter. Get your hashtags out. Hashtag joyant, okay? Hashtag joyant. So I want to welcome you guys to today's stock market review. We're going to talk about this market because we have a little bit more data than we did yesterday when we did the stock market mutterings. And there's a few things I wanted to update you on because some of the things have changed. And I'll tell you what's changing here. Well, what we've known is changing. Let's start with these Qs, the NASDAQ, the QQQ, NASDAQ, tech-heavy sector. This thing got kicked out of the band like David Lee Roth. That's how I'm looking at this thing now. The Qs have been kicked out of the band like David Lee Roth and Van Halen. So if you remember just a couple of months ago, it was the Qs. They did all the business. They drug everybody out of the coronavirus correction. They were the leaders. They were like the lead singer, Old David Lee Roth, Jump, all those good old days, rocking it out. You had like the IWM over here, the Russell, rocking it out on the lead guitar. You had the SPY over here on the bass, like Michael Anthony. And then you just had back here on the drums, you had the YM or the Dow just kind of keeping the beat, keeping the rhythm. They were all a band. Then these people got together, got tired of the Q getting all the attention, being on all the late night talk shows, being the favorite of everybody. And boy, they gave it the boot. Pow, out you go, Qs. And why I'm saying that, guys, is because if you're just looking at the Qs and you're just looking at big beta and you're looking at these popular names, Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, Cuervo, I'm just going to spit some names off of here. Docu, ZM, Netflix, I think I mentioned Nvidia, but Nvidia, Shop, Tesla, Square, all of these big time super growth names, they are getting the they're getting cheesed, like top shelf cheesed. Now, don't get me wrong. These things needed a correction. So when you're looking at the Qs right here, you're at probably roughly 12%. I think you're sitting here. This is my mental math. What is mental math? That means I'm off probably a few digits here somewhere. Okay. But if you go back and you look at things like, let's say, let me pull these charts up real quick. If you look at the YM, hell, it made an all-time high today. Like the YM broke out today and made an all-time high. Now, some of this is understandable. I don't know if I showed the stats before. I'm just going to kind of spit them off the end of my tongue here because that's what I chose to do. But we know, I think it was like 250,000 cases a day a couple of months ago, in January. 250,000 new COVID cases of hospitalization every day. That has drastically decreased down to like 50. So that's diving, like a pump and dump, penny stock pump and dump chart. It's decreasing. And that's a great thing. We talked about that even too in the last happy hour. Now, it obviously makes sense here that those growth stocks, that tech is not going to be needed because there might be this recovery coming in April, or not a recovery, but maybe some normalcy, us getting back to normal and doing the things that we used to do. So that now puts the pressure on those stocks and moves the speculation into airline stocks, travel stocks, these downtrodden stocks that kind of got left behind. Every dog gets a day. So while the YM was back there playing it, we're going to call the YM Phil Collins, right? Phil Collins. He's back there playing ba 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 ba. He's like, look, I got the best voice in the band. Drummers aren't known as lead singers. And then he finally ditches that drum crap, gets up there on the mic. That's what he does. Goes out on his own, makes some solo records. Everybody dances to his love songs. Fantastic crap, right? It's like Phil Collins back there says, I want my shot. I want my day in the sun. And that's what you're seeing here. Now, back to some of the stuff I was talking about. Look, it's no surprise. You got stocks like, I'm just going to raffle off a couple of these here. No particular, just ones that's coming to my mind. You're going to have tons of your own. TTD here. This stock was like 150, 180 bucks post-corona. Straight to 1,000. This thing tips out like 1,000 up here. We know about Tesla and its massive run followed by its split, now down to almost 600 here, also being corrected. So nobody is getting any asylum here. You know, everybody's on the board. And I'm sure if you go down the list, you got things like Square. I'm going to just raffle off some names because these charts are all going to look the same. You know, you have things like Roku, TTD, Square, Cupola Software. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there. I don't know if I mentioned Roku. Look, I don't even know if Joyent is a word, so if I repeat the same ticker over and over again, please don't judge. PayC is another one. PayPal. These were big companies that made monstrous moves. Like I said, Tesla. Everything goes through a cycle. Now, here's what I want you guys to know that's new in Traders Land. You can't get stuck in a position where you think something is always going to bounce. One thing I cannot stand is by saying it has to bounce. It has to go up. It has to go down. Market don't have to do shit, right? Market does whatever market wants to do. When you look at the stock market, I want you to think it's the most ignorant, rebellious, flamboyant, rude, inconsiderate person you would ever met. That's the stock market. It does whatever the hell it wants to do whenever it wants to do. Don't care about you. Don't care about anybody. Just kind of cares about itself, right? So we could look at possibly bouncing stuff. And I mentioned a lot of these stocks in the last couple of mutterings, but I haven't been able to pull the trigger because many of this stuff just won't set up. It just keeps selling and selling and selling. And it's just like a relentless sell-off. So, I mean, you look at it like several days, like NVIDIA down. I mean, look, multiple days touching support from back here. These things are really looking bad. Now, here's what I want to talk about. Again, you can always pull out individual names, but in times of corrective markets and stuff like that, it's normally better instead of looking for a specific tech stock, unless you want to own this tech stock for the long period of time. It's normally better to trade the indices. Now, when you get an indice that's pointing to certain areas, you got to pay attention. So we want to look at this right here because this has got to be on tap. We talked about this also in the mutterings. You got this little pivot right from back here that makes this nice double bottom where this hit Friday. I want to open this chart up just a tiny bit more for you guys to see it because that's just going to be too small. Okay. You really have to watch this spot right here. You can see the significance of this. It's not the best support in the world, but it's something that you need to pay attention to. Because what you're getting into this, these Qs right now that you're not seeing in the Dow, and this is going to play for any tech stock. So whatever I'm talking about here, look at your favorite tech stock that's getting plastered right now. Your Netflix, your Snow, your Roku, your ZM, your NVIDIA. Look at those, and they're going to have the same type of chart, but they have the same type of behavior, and that is every single rally in these things is getting the Dikembe Mutombo, like the pow, slap down. So here's what you got. You have this first panic bounce right here. It's immediately followed up by one day that takes this whole entire area out. Then you come back here, you get two back-to-back days, pulls in some more bulls. Consensus is we've reached a bottom. Growth is going to stay. This is just your normal correction that you see in the rest of the market. And then it gets slammed on again, this time making another low. Friday, you end the day with this very strong rally, which I talked about in the stock market mutterings. This very strong, powerful rally into the close that would lead you to believe there was some authoritative ownership. People wanted this thing. But what happened is you opened up and you completely gave it all back. That's not the kind of enthusiasm you're looking for if you're bullish. Here's all I got to say left about this. If you start losing this area right here, Friday's low. I don't know what it exactly is. I think it's 12.2s, 12 down in there. And you're going to have some trubs. We're going to have some trubs if you're long. Because if you're somebody that's doing this whole technical analysis thing, or somebody that's doing it and has forgotten, the point about technical analysis is there are no randoms in the markets. That assets, no matter what it is you're looking at, that all known relevant information is priced into this chart. So whether it's the stimulus, possibility of interest rates, it doesn't make a difference. Whatever inside of this chart is reflected right here with it. We're looking at the real now, in real time. And there are no randoms, meaning that they trade from one level to the next. If this level does not hold, you only have two options. You either have this smaller level or you will have to explore this level down in here. I mean, that's just the way it works, okay? So kind of remember the staircase analogy we've used before. You just got to keep walking down the steps until you find buyers. You know, they keep moving up the steps until you start finding sellers. The old adage is the market will raise prices as high as it needs to make it unattractive, and it'll sell off prices as much as it needs to make it attractive. So as you're sitting down here with a 12% correction, there's no debate here about what we're talking about. All right, look, you're down 12% and you're not finding buyers. What else do you want to say about it? We can make all the excuses that we want and the theories and draw lines and everything, but the bottom line is that it just keeps finding a way to go lower. Nobody's interested. And if nobody's going to be interested here and fight this off and start turning upwards, it will move down here and maybe they'll find some buyers. Who knows? Maybe they'll find some buyers. Maybe they'll find another lead singer. This is where Sammy Hagar comes in, right? You know, I can't drive 55. You know, they got to get Sammy Hagar to come in here and save this thing to reignite Van Halen. Anyway, guys, keep an eye on that. I want to just keep focused on this here for the remainder of the week because we are at a very volatile area. And something else that you have to take into consideration, okay? Maybe the Qs get pissed, you know, and they decide, look, I'm going to take you guys down with me. You know, I'm going to the tabloids here. You know, you don't know that. You know, you're not going to see this discrepancy really for a long period of time where the SPY and the Dow continue to make all-time highs while this thing goes bankrupt. It's not going to work that way. You're going to see that money rotate at some point in and out of there. So keep that in mind. It could be something that ignites a selling frenzy in other assets, or many of these stocks continue to sell off. What I also want you to do is not underestimate any type of sell-off in names like TTD or some of these cheaper ones like Fubos, stuff like that, FUBO, or like NEOs. I don't want you to underestimate a sell-off on any of these beta names. And the reason, because you have to understand some of these things that were 300 to 400%. Like Tesla, for example, 900% last year. I said at the beginning of the year, it ain't going up 900% this year. I almost feel, and I'm probably going to get some steam for whoever stuck around, I think you saw the highs of the year on that thing for now. Look, that's just the way this thing is. Every dog gets its day, money cycles. That's just the way this whole thing has always worked. But some of these need to be corrected, and some of them aren't. You know, can't look at something and say 20% or 30% and say that's enough. You know, if it went up 500%, 30% is nothing. And even when you're looking at the market, I'm not saying that it's going to correct or how bad it's going to get or we're entering a bear market, because when you back up the chart, we looked at this too, it's not really anything that you haven't already seen and you haven't seen in the recent past. I mean, you look at this little correction right here from September, okay? You know, it's the same thing, and you have this pre-election sell-off. Now you have this sell-off. So when you really back this chart out and you look over a long period of time, let me see if I can even do this. We can move into a weekly time frame. I mean, it looks like a speck here, right? I mean, look, it's just part of doing business here. It's still keeping the overall trend line. So what does that mean? It's like, well, this thing could still give up another 15, 20% and be bullish. It's up that much. And maybe what you're seeing here, you know, I don't subscribe to the fear-mongering crowd either, could just be another part of business. That reignites or resets, refreshes a secular bull market. Only time will tell. Thing I want you to take away most about this is, number one, Van Halen rocks. We know that. With David Lee Roth, with Sammy Hagar, they even rock if I was doing. I mean, just Van Halen rocks, okay? Always did. Just the market's still bullish, but be careful because we're up so much. And don't rush in to just buy these dips. You know, this is a market that isn't going to correct overnight. This much selling, there's going to be time for you to get in. Don't get overzealous on some of that stuff. So I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm going to try to keep putting these out on a daily basis, right? And I want to thank you. Got any questions at any time, just reach out to me. I hope you find some, at least entertainment value, some educational value in this. Reach out to me at any time. Take care. I want you guys to trade well. Be careful out there. Pick your shots. Use your stops.